Once upon a time, in an ancient kingdom veiled in mist and memory, there lived a king whose wisdom was known across all lands. He ruled with fairness and grace, and among his many treasures, none were dearer to him than his youngest daughter. The princess was fair beyond words, her eyes like morning stars, her voice soft as the song of a nightingale in spring. Each dawn, she wandered through the royal gardens, where roses blushed and fountains sang their crystal tunes. There, beneath an old lime tree, lay a deep well whose waters gleamed like glass under the golden sun. The princess would sit beside it, tossing her golden ball high into the air and catching it again for simple delight. One fateful morning, as she played, her fingers slipped, the golden ball arched too high and vanished into the well below. She peered into the dark water, but the treasure was gone, swallowed by the silent depths. Her heart broke, and tears fell into the well like tiny pearls. "Oh, my beloved golden ball," she cried, "my father's gift now lost forever." As her sobs echoed through the trees, a strange croaking voice called out, "Why do you weep so, fair princess?" Startled, she looked around and saw no one until a small green frog emerged from the shadowed water. He blinked his round golden eyes and spoke again, "Tell me your sorrow, and perhaps I may help." The princess gasped, "You can speak? Oh, dear frog, I have lost my golden ball into your well." The frog nodded slowly. "That is not such a heavy task. I can fetch it for you if you will grant me something in return." "Anything," cried the princess. "Jewels, silk, my crown, whatever you wish." The frog's eyes glimmered. "I do not desire your riches, but your friendship," he said. "If you will let me be your companion, sit beside you, eat from your plate, drink from your cup, and sleep upon your pillow, then I shall dive down and bring back your golden ball." The princess frowned in disbelief. "A frog, my friend? How absurd," she thought. But aloud, she said sweetly, "Of course, dear frog. Whatever you ask, only bring me my ball." Satisfied, the frog smiled and plunged into the depths with a soft splash. For a time, the princess heard nothing but the faint echo of dripping water. Then, from the well's darkness, the frog rose again, holding the golden ball in his mouth. Overjoyed, the princess seized it from him and cried, "Oh, thank you, dear frog," before running back toward the castle. "Wait, wait, take me with you," croaked the frog desperately, but her laughter faded in the distance, and he was left alone by the well's edge. The frog sighed, gazing at the rippling surface where her reflection had once danced. "Promises made in haste," he murmured, "are often forgotten with the setting sun." Night descended, and the stars watched silently as the frog waited, patient and still. Back in the castle, the princess dined with her father, her golden ball gleaming beside her plate. She thought of the frog only once, with a small laugh, then dismissed him from her mind. But as the moon climbed high, a soft knock echoed upon the grand oak doors. Knock, knock. The sound came again, steady and strange. The servants looked at each other in confusion, until a croaky voice called out from beyond the door. "Open the door, fair princess. Do you not remember what you promised beside the cool well?" The princess froze, her spoon clattering upon her plate. Her father, the king, looked up from his meal. "My child, what is the matter?" she whispered. "It is a frog, father. He claims I made him a promise." The king frowned gently. "Did you give your word?" "Yes, but I did not think he would come," she cried. "My daughter," said the king with solemn grace, "a promise is sacred, whether made to a man or a frog." Reluctantly, she rose and opened the great door. There, upon the marble threshold, sat the small green frog, looking up with hopeful eyes. He bowed slightly. "Good evening, princess. I have come for the companionship you offered." The servants gasped, but the king nodded. "Let him in," And so, the frog hopped across the shining floor, flip, flap, flip, flap, until he reached the royal table. "Lift me up," he said softly, "that I may dine beside you, as you promised." With trembling hands, the princess lifted him onto the edge of her golden plate. He ate politely, taking tiny bites, while she turned her face away in disgust. But as she turned to leave, the frog croaked again, his voice echoing with a strange sadness. "Wait, princess," he said. "What of your promise? You vowed to take me with you, to let me eat from your plate and sleep upon your pillow." The princess froze for a moment, her heart trembling with guilt. But she was a princess, proud and fearful of ridicule. "What nonsense!" she murmured under her breath. "A frog cannot dine at my table or sleep beside me." And without another word, she gathered her skirts and ran up the marble steps toward the castle gates. Behind her, the frog called out once more, "Princess, wait for me. You gave your word." But his cries were swallowed by the gentle murmur of the forest and the hum of the evening breeze. He sat alone by the well, his golden eyes dim with sorrow, the water rippling faintly with the reflection of the setting sun. Far away, the castle glowed in the distance, its towers gilded by dusk, its windows glittering like diamonds. Within its walls, laughter and music began to fill the halls as the royal family gathered for supper. The princess sat quietly at the long oak table, her golden ball beside her, polished and perfect once more. Her father, the king, noticed her silence. "My dear, what troubles you? You seem not yourself this evening." The princess forced a smile. "It is nothing, father," she replied. "I was only startled by something in the forest." The king nodded, satisfied, and the feast continued. But the princess's heart beat faster with each passing minute. For outside the castle gate, in the cool night air, came the soft sound of webbed feet slapping against stone. Step by step, hop by hop, the frog made his way across the courtyard, following the light that shone from her chamber. He was tired, cold, and weary, yet the memory of her promise kept his heart warm. At last he reached the great wooden door and, with all his might, knocked 3 times. Knock, knock, knock. The sound echoed through the marble hall. Servants looked around in confusion. The princess turned pale. Her spoon fell from her hand, clattering against the silver plate. Again came the knock, 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 knock. Then a soft croaking voice called out, "Princess, open the door. It is I, your friend from the well." The king frowned and turned toward her. "What is this? Who speaks so strangely at our gate?" The princess stammered, It is only a frog, father. I made a foolish promise to him." "A promise?" the king said sternly. "And what sort of promise does a princess make to a frog?" Her voice trembled as she explained everything: the golden ball, the well, and the frog's help. When she had finished, the king said, "My daughter, a promise, no matter to whom it is made, must be kept." "But father," she pleaded, "he is only a frog. I cannot." "Enough," said the king. "If he helped you in your time of need, then you shall keep your word. Go and open the door." With trembling hands, the princess rose from her chair and walked slowly toward the entrance. The frog was waiting there, damp and shivering, his small eyes gleaming in the torchlight. When he saw her, he smiled faintly. "Good evening, princess. You have not forgotten me, have you?" She sighed, then turned her head aside. "Come in," she said softly. "My father commands it." And so the frog hopped inside, leaving small wet prints upon the gleaming marble floor. The servants whispered among themselves, unable to believe their eyes. He followed the princess to the dining hall, where the king watched in quiet approval. When they reached the table, the frog looked up at her and said, "Lift me up beside you, princess, as you promised." Her face turned crimson with shame, but under her father's gaze, she obeyed. He sat upon the golden plate before her, his green skin glistening beneath the candlelight. Then he said, "Now push your plate nearer, that I may eat from it as you swore you would." With trembling fingers, she did as he asked, and the frog dipped his mouth into the royal stew. The princess could barely swallow a bite. Her stomach churned at the sight. The frog, however, ate heartily and thanked her with every spoonful. When the meal was over, he said gently, "Now take me to your chamber, for you also promised me your pillow." The princess's eyes widened in horror. "That I cannot do." But the king spoke gravely, "My daughter, he who helps you deserves your kindness. You shall keep your promise." Tears filled her eyes, but she bowed her head. "As you wish, father." And so she lifted the small creature in her hands, his skin cool and slick, and carried him up the grand staircase. The candles flickered as she passed, and the frog whispered softly, "Fear not, dear princess. Not all is as it seems." The princess pushed open the door to her chamber, its hinges sighing softly like a weary song. The moonlight spilled through the tall windows, painting silver ribbons across her golden bed. She set the frog down upon the velvet cushion near her pillow, trying not to look at him. He gazed up at her with gentle eyes and said, "Thank you, dear princess. You have shown me mercy." But she turned away, her voice trembling. "Sleep if you must, but speak no more to me tonight." The frog bowed his small head. "As you wish, my lady. I shall trouble you no further." The night grew deep and quiet, save for the soft hoot of an owl beyond the window. The princess lay awake, staring at the ceiling, her mind restless and her heart uneasy. Beside her, the frog did not sleep either. He sat motionless, gazing at the stars through the glass. A single tear rolled down his green cheek, catching the moonlight like a tiny diamond. Then, softly, he whispered words no one had heard in 100 years. Ancient words of longing and sorrow, carried on the hush of midnight. As he spoke, the candles flickered, and a faint golden light shimmered around him. The princess stirred, half dreaming, hearing a sound like music beneath the water. But when she looked, the frog was still there, silent, small, and still. The next morning, the sun rose bright over the kingdom, and birds sang at her window. The princess awoke to find the frog sitting politely upon the windowsill, waiting. "Good morning, princess," he said cheerfully. "The dawn is lovely today." She frowned and groaned. "Must you speak so early?" "I only wished to thank you," he replied kindly, "for allowing me to rest within your chamber." The princess sighed and rose from bed, determined to end this strange arrangement. "You have rested, you have eaten," she said firmly. "Now return to your well and trouble me no more." But the frog looked at her, his golden eyes full of sorrow. "Have I offended you, princess?" She hesitated, feeling a pang of guilt, but pride held her tongue. "It is unseemly," she muttered, "for one of my station to share company with a creature of the mud." The frog bowed his head. "Forgive me, then. I shall go where I am wanted." And with that, he hopped to the floor and made his slow way toward the door. Something inside her stirred a strange ache she did not understand. "Wait," she called softly, almost without meaning to. The frog stopped and turned. "Yes, my lady?" Her voice softened. "You may stay, if you wish, but speak little, and do not leap upon my things." A faint smile crossed his face. "I shall be as quiet as the shadow of the moon." And so it was that days passed, and the frog remained in her chamber. He sat upon her windowsill during the day, watching the clouds drift across the sky. At night, he rested upon his small velvet cushion, never asking for more than she allowed. Slowly, the princess began to grow accustomed to his company. She found herself speaking aloud, forgetting that she spoke to a frog. He listened always with patience, never interrupting, never mocking. One evening, as rain pattered gently upon the glass, she asked, Do you never wish to return to your pond? The frog smiled sadly. My place is here, so long as you allow it. The pond holds only echoes of what once was. There was something in his tone that made her heart tighten. Tell me, she said, were you always as you are now? The frog looked away. No, princess. Once, long ago, I walked upon two legs and wore a crown of my own. Her eyes widened. Then you are a prince, he finished quietly, cursed by a witch whose heart was darker than night. The room fell silent save for the whisper of rain. The princess stared at him, wonder battling disbelief. Can the curse be broken? She asked at last. The frog nodded. Only by a promise freely kept, and a heart that learns to see beyond appearances. Her voice softened. And if such a heart were found, then, said the frog, the spell would shatter, and truth would shine brighter than gold. The princess said nothing, but in her eyes, something new began to stir, a glimmer of compassion. That night, as she lay awake, she thought of his words again and again. And for the first time, the sound of his soft croak brought her comfort instead of disgust. Days turned into weeks, and the strange friendship deepened like a secret garden unseen by the world. One morning, the king himself visited her chamber and found her reading aloud to the frog. He smiled quietly, for he saw kindness blooming in his daughter's heart where once had been only vanity. But fate had yet another test to give. That night, a storm rose over the kingdom, fierce winds, crashing thunder, and rain like sheets of silver. The princess awoke to the sound of the frog crying out in pain. She rushed to his side and saw him trembling, his small body glowing faintly gold. Do not fear, he gasped. The curse is shifting. The candles flickered wildly, and a soft wind swirled through the room though every window was closed. Tell me what to do, she cried. How can I help you? Do not pity me, he whispered. Only remember your promise and trust what your heart knows. Then the light faded, and the frog grew still. Tears filled the princess's eyes. She gathered him gently and held him close. Oh, little frog, she wept, forgive me. You are worth more than I ever knew. Her tears fell upon his brow, 1, 2, 3, shining like pearls in the dim candlelight. Then, with a shimmer and a rush of warm air, the frog vanished from her hands. Before her stood a young man, tall and noble, dressed in garments of gold and green. His eyes, though human now, held the same gentle kindness she had come to know. The princess gasped, her heart racing with awe and joy. He bowed low before her and said, "You have freed me, princess, not by magic, but by mercy." She could not speak. Tears sparkled on her lashes as the storm outside began to fade. "Come morning," he said softly, "your kindness shall be known throughout the land." And so they stood together as the first light of dawn painted the sky in gold. The curse was broken, but a new story had only just begun. For in the days that followed, the prince spoke often of his lost kingdom far beyond the forest. He told of a wicked sorceress who had envied his family's joy and cast him into darkness. Yet even through the years as a frog, he had never forgotten the light of hope. And now, in her eyes, he had found it once again. And though she had promised the frog her companionship, her heart still whispered that she had made a foolish bargain. That night, the golden moon floated over the castle, and the princess sat by her window, lost in thought. Suddenly, there came a faint tapping at the great oak door below, followed by a low croak. "Open the door, my princess," called a tiny voice. "Do you not remember your promise by the well?" Her heart leapt in fright. She had hoped foolishly that the frog had forgotten, but the sound came again, louder now, echoing through the marble halls. The king himself heard it and asked, "My daughter, what troubles you so?" And trembling, she told her father everything of the well, the golden ball, and the frog who had helped her. The king frowned but said gently, "A promise is a promise, my dear. Go and open the door." With reluctant steps, the princess obeyed, and there sat the frog, glistening in the torchlight. He bowed low, as though he were a knight of noble birth. "Good evening, my princess," he croaked. "You promised I might dine with you and sleep upon your golden pillow. May I come in?" The princess shuddered, but her father's gaze was firm. "Keep your word, child," said the king. So she led the frog to the dining table, though her hands trembled as she set him upon a velvet cushion. As the servants served supper, the frog sat beside her plate, blinking his bright eyes with curious delight. He ate from her golden dish, and though she could hardly touch her food, she dared not speak against him. When the meal was done, he looked up and said softly, "Now, princess, let us go to your chamber." Her cheeks flushed crimson, but again, the king reminded her, "A royal word is sacred." So she carried the frog to her chamber, where moonlight bathed the silken bed. He looked up at her and whispered, "Place me upon your pillow, dear princess." Disgusted and angry, she turned away, muttering, "You are nothing but a cold, wet creature." The frog's voice trembled. "Do you not remember what you promised? Please, one kindness more." In her frustration, she snatched him up and hurled him against the wall. "Now you shall have peace, you horrid little thing," she cried. But the moment he struck the wall, a flash of golden light filled the room. Before her eyes, the frog transformed, his green skin melted away, and in his place stood a young prince. He was tall and handsome, dressed in a tunic woven of starlight and gold. The princess gasped. "Who are you?" she whispered. He bowed deeply. "A prince, once cursed by a wicked witch to live as a frog until a princess would keep her promise. By your kindness, even unwilling, you have broken the spell." Tears filled the princess's eyes, for she saw now that true nobility lay not in birth, but in honor. The prince smiled gently. "Will you forgive me for frightening you, my lady?" She nodded, her voice soft as silk. "And will you forgive me for my cruelty?" He took her hand. "All is forgiven, for love often begins in misunderstanding." That night, they spoke for hours beneath the silver moon, and laughter returned to the castle once more. By morning, word spread through the kingdom that the princess had found her prince. The king rejoiced, and bells rang from every tower. A grand wedding was held, with roses blooming even in winter's heart. The prince and princess danced together, and those who saw them swore they had never seen such joy. And so the curse was ended, not by magic alone, but by a promise kept. In time, the tale of the frog prince became legend throughout the old kingdom. And it was said that whenever one keeps a promise made with a pure heart, magic still stirs in the air. For in that kingdom of silver forests and crystal lakes, love had once again proved stronger than enchantment. The celebration lasted for 3 days and 3 nights, with music that drifted through the meadows like ribbons of gold. Minstrels sang songs of the frog who became a prince, and the people cheered until their voices grew hoarse. Every window of the castle shimmered with candlelight, and even the stars seemed to twinkle in tune with the joy below. At the height of the feast, the prince stood and raised his goblet high, thanking his father-in-law, the wise old king. "My king," he said, "your daughter has shown me that courage and compassion can lift any curse." The king smiled, pride gleaming in his eyes. "And you, my son, have shown that humility is the crown of all princes." As the hall erupted in cheers, the princess took her husband's hand, feeling warmth spread through her heart. Later that night, under the silver canopy of stars, they stepped into the royal gardens. The fountains still shimmered like glass, and the old well, the place of their fateful meeting, stood silent and deep. The prince gazed into the water, his reflection clear as moonlight. "Here," he said softly, "my life began anew." The princess smiled. Then let this place be sacred, that no one forgets what a promise can do. From that day forth, travelers said that the well glowed faintly at night, as if remembering their love. Years passed, and peace reigned in the old kingdom. The prince and princess ruled with fairness and grace. The people prospered, and children laughed through the streets, singing of the frog prince and his golden bride. Yet even in happiness, they never forgot humility, for they knew that blessings were kept by gratitude. One spring morning, a golden carriage appeared at the castle gates, drawn by 6 white horses. A messenger stepped out, clad in emerald green, bearing the royal seal of a faraway land. He bowed low before the prince and said, "My lord, your old companion, Iron Heinrich, sends word." At the mention of that name, the prince's eyes shone. Faithful Heinrich, he was my servant before the curse. He bound his heart with iron bands so it would not break when he thought me lost forever. The messenger smiled. "He has arrived, my lord, and awaits you in the courtyard." The prince hurried down the marble stairs, his cloak fluttering behind him like a banner of dawn. There stood Heinrich, tall and strong, tears shining in his eyes like morning dew. "My master," cried Heinrich, "you live! My heart can finally be free." As he spoke, 3 loud cracks echoed through the courtyard, the sound of the iron bands snapping apart. The prince embraced him. "Faithful Heinrich, no treasure could match your loyalty." Heinrich smiled through tears. "To serve you again, my prince, is joy enough for a lifetime." Together they entered the golden carriage, the princess beside them, as trumpets sang in the distance. They traveled through villages adorned with garlands, where people knelt as the royal coach passed by. Everywhere they went, they were greeted not as rulers, but as symbols of hope and faith. In a small village, a young girl curtsied and offered the princess a lily. "For your kindness," she said. The princess accepted the flower with a smile, tucking it into her hair. "And for your courage," she whispered back. When they returned to the castle, a feast awaited, grander than any before. Golden banners fluttered from every tower, and doves were released into the twilight sky. The prince raised his hand and said, "Let this day remind all hearts that love fulfills every vow." The people cheered, their voices rising like waves beneath the moonlit heavens. And when the last candle flickered low, the prince and princess stood once more at the old well. They gazed into its depths, now calm and clear, and the prince said, "Do you hear that?" The princess listened. Far below, it seemed, came the faintest echo of a frog's croak, soft and distant. She smiled. "Then perhaps, dear heart, magic never truly leaves us." He took her hand. "Nor do promises, once spoken with truth." The wind stirred the leaves, and the stars above seemed to shimmer brighter, as though blessing their words. And in that moment, the tale of the Frog Prince was sealed forever, not as legend, but as living memory. For in every heart that keeps its promise, the old kingdom still lives. Once upon a time, there was a sweet little girl who lived in a small village near the forest. Everyone loved her, especially her grandmother, who made her a beautiful red-hooded cloak. The little girl wore it so often that people began calling her Little Red Riding Hood. One sunny morning, her mother called out, "Little Red Riding Hood, come here please." "Yes, mother," she answered cheerfully, running into the kitchen with a bright smile. Her mother handed her a small basket filled with cake, bread, and a pot of butter. "Your grandmother is feeling sick," said her mother gently. "Please take this basket to her house. Remember to stay on the forest path," she added. "Don't stop to talk to strangers." "I promised, mother," said Little Red Riding Hood, nodding with her red hood bobbing softly. Her mother kissed her forehead. "Good girl, be careful and come back before dark." With her basket in hand, Little Red Riding Hood set off along the forest path. Birds chirped in the trees, and sunlight danced through the leaves above her head. She hummed a happy tune as she walked, her red cloak glowing in the morning light. After a while, she heard a deep voice call, "Good morning, little girl. Where are you going?" Startled, she turned and saw a big gray wolf standing beside the trees. But the wolf smiled politely and said, "Don't be afraid, I won't hurt you." Little Red Riding Hood felt a little nervous, but the wolf's voice sounded kind. "I'm going to visit my grandmother," she said. "She lives in the little house near the end of the forest." "How nice," said the wolf softly. "And what do you have in your basket?" "Cake and butter for Grandma," she said, smiling proudly. The wolf's eyes gleamed, and he licked his lips quietly so she would not notice. "Wouldn't your grandmother love some flowers too?" the wolf asked kindly. "Oh, that's a wonderful idea," said Little Red Riding Hood happily. She stepped off the path to pick some bright yellow and white flowers. Meanwhile, the clever wolf chuckled softly and whispered, "I'll take a shorter way." He ran quickly through the forest, his paws silent on the ground. Soon, he reached the grandmother's cottage and knocked on the door. "Who is it?" called the grandmother weakly from her bed. "It's me, Little Red Riding Hood," said the wolf in a sweet, soft voice. "Come in, my dear," said the grandmother kindly. The wolf opened the door and quickly jumped onto the bed. Before the grandmother could cry out, he swallowed her up in one big gulp. Then he laughed. "Now I'll wait for the little girl." He put on her nightcap and glasses, pulled the blanket up, and lay down pretending to be her. Meanwhile, Little Red Riding Hood was still gathering flowers in the forest. She had picked so many that she could barely carry them in her arms. "Oh dear," she said, looking up. "It's getting late. I should go to Grandma's now." She hurried down the path, skipping through the trees toward the little cottage. As she reached the door, she knocked softly. "Grandmother, may I come in?" A rough voice answered, "Come in, my dear. The door is open." Little Red Riding Hood slowly opened the door and stepped inside the quiet cottage. It was dark inside, and the curtains were drawn across the windows. "Grandmother?" she called softly. "It's me, Little Red Riding Hood." "Come closer, my dear," said the wolf in a strange, scratchy voice. Little Red Riding Hood felt something was odd, but she walked toward the bed anyway. She set down her basket on the table and looked carefully at her grandmother. "Oh, grandmother," she said slowly, "what big eyes you have. The better to see you with, my dear," growled the wolf softly, smiling under the blanket. "And grandmother," she said, her voice shaking a little, "what big ears you have. The better to hear you with, my dear," said the wolf in a low, rumbling tone. "Grandmother," she whispered, stepping closer, "what big hands you have. The better to hug you with, my dear," said the wolf, showing his sharp claws. Now, Little Red Riding Hood's heart began to beat faster and faster. "Grandmother," she said, trembling, "what big teeth you have. The better to eat you with," roared the wolf, throwing off the blanket. He jumped out of bed and chased her around the small room. Little Red Riding Hood screamed and tried to run for the door, but the wolf was too fast. With one big gulp, he swallowed her whole. Then he rubbed his belly and laughed. "Ah, now I'm full at last." The wolf yawned, climbed back into bed, and soon fell fast asleep. A few minutes later, a hunter was walking through the forest nearby. He stopped and listened. "That's strange," he said. "I hear snoring from Grandma's house." He walked to the cottage and peeked through the window. "What in the world?" he whispered. "That's a wolf in Grandma's bed." Quietly, he opened the door and stepped inside, holding his axe tightly. He looked at the wolf's round belly and thought, maybe Grandma is still alive inside. So he took his knife and carefully cut open the sleeping wolf's belly. Out came Little Red Riding Hood, gasping for air but safe. "Grandmother," she cried, and soon the old woman also climbed out, weak but alive. "Oh, thank you, kind hunter," said Little Red Riding Hood with tears in her eyes. The hunter smiled. "Let's make sure this wolf never hurts anyone again." He filled the wolf's belly with heavy stones and sewed it up again. When the wolf woke up, he tried to run away, but the stones were too heavy. He fell down with a great crash and never got up again. Little Red Riding Hood hugged her grandmother tightly. "I was so scared, Grandma," she whispered softly. "My dear child," said the grandmother gently, "thank goodness you are safe." Then they sat down together, and Little Red Riding Hood brought out her basket. They shared the cake and butter, laughing through their tears. When they finished, Little Red Riding Hood said, "I will never talk to strangers again. And I will always stay on the forest path," she added firmly. Her grandmother smiled proudly. "That's my good little girl." The hunter waved goodbye and went back into the forest. The sun was shining again, and birds sang softly in the trees. From that day on, Little Red Riding Hood always remembered her lesson. She grew up kind, wise, and brave, and she never forgot her grandmother's love. And whenever she walked through the forest, she smiled and said softly, "Thank you, dear hunter, and goodbye, Mr. Wolf." Then she skipped happily home, her red hood glowing in the sunlight. And that, my friends, is the story of Little Red Riding Hood. Now, my dear listener, let's think about what we learned from Little Red Riding Hood. This story is not only about a little girl and a big bad wolf. It's about safety, kindness, and learning to be wise. Let's say it together. Always listen to your parents. Say it again with me slowly. Always listen to your parents. Little Red Riding Hood didn't mean to get into trouble. She was sweet and kind, but she trusted a stranger. Repeat this line. Do not talk to strangers. Say it again with feeling. Do not talk to strangers. The wolf seemed nice at first, but he had a dark plan. Sometimes bad things hide behind a friendly smile. Let's repeat. Be careful who you trust. Once more, be careful who you trust. Now, take a deep breath. Good job. Imagine you are walking in the forest like Little Red Riding Hood. You see trees, flowers, birds, and sunlight dancing through the leaves. You feel happy, but also a little nervous. Now, say it softly with me. Stay on the right path. Again, stay on the right path. Sometimes in life, we are tempted to go the wrong way. Maybe someone tells us, "Come here, it's more fun." But wise people remember the lesson. Follow the safe road. Say it now. Follow the safe road. Good. You are doing great shadowing practice. Now, let's talk about bravery. When the wolf jumped at her, Little Red Riding Hood screamed for help. Even though she was scared, she didn't give up. Say it with me. Be brave, even when you are afraid. Again, be brave, even when you are afraid. The hunter also showed bravery when he entered the house. He didn't run away. He acted to save others. Repeat this. Real courage helps others. One more time. Real courage helps others. Now, smile and take another deep breath. You're not just listening, you're growing wiser, just like Little Red Riding Hood. Let's repeat the moral of the story together. Listen to your parents, stay on the path, and never trust a stranger. One last time. Listen to your parents, stay on the path, and never trust a stranger. Very good. Now let's relax for a moment. Close your eyes and imagine the safe, sunny forest again. You see Little Red Riding Hood and her grandmother having tea. They are laughing and smiling. The danger is gone. The birds sing softly, and the forest feels peaceful again. Now say gently, I am safe. I am strong. I am kind. Say it again. I am safe. I am strong. I am kind. This is the real magic of fairy tales. They teach us to be better people. They remind us that good hearts always win in the end. So, next time you hear a story, remember to look for the lesson inside it. And remember Little Red Riding Hood's brave, gentle heart. Now, repeat after me one last time. Be brave, be kind, be wise. Excellent! You have done a wonderful job today. Now, let's practice retelling the story of Little Red Riding Hood together. I'll say a sentence first, and then you repeat it after me. Once upon a time, there was a little girl who always wore a red hood. Your turn, say it. Once upon a time, there was a little girl who always wore a red hood. She was called Little Red Riding Hood because of her red cloak. Say it after me. She was called Little Red Riding Hood because of her red cloak. One day, her mother asked her to bring food to her grandmother. Repeat. Her mother asked her to bring food to her grandmother. Her mother warned her, "Don't talk to strangers and stay on the path." Say it now. Don't talk to strangers and stay on the path. Little Red Riding Hood promised, "Yes, mother, I will." Repeat after me. Yes, mother, I will. Then she walked happily into the forest with her basket. Say it. She walked happily into the forest with her basket. Along the way, she met a big, gray wolf. Repeat. She met a big, gray wolf. The wolf smiled and asked, "Where are you going, little girl?" Now you say it. Where are you going, little girl? Little Red Riding Hood said, "I'm going to visit my grandmother." Your turn. I'm going to visit my grandmother. Then the wolf said, "Why not pick some flowers for her?" Repeat that line. Why not pick some flowers for her? Little Red Riding Hood thought it was a good idea, so she left the path. Say it. She left the path to pick some flowers. Meanwhile, the wolf ran straight to the grandmother's house. Repeat. The wolf ran straight to the grandmother's house. He pretended to be Little Red Riding Hood and knocked on the door. Your turn. He pretended to be Little Red Riding Hood and knocked on the door. When Grandma opened the door, the wolf jumped inside and swallowed her whole. Repeat slowly. The wolf jumped inside and swallowed her whole. Then he put on her clothes and waited for the little girl to arrive. Say it after me. He put on her clothes and waited for the little girl to arrive. When Little Red Riding Hood entered, she was surprised. Say it. She was surprised. She said, "Grandmother, what big eyes you have." Repeat it. What big eyes you have. The wolf growled, "The better to see you with, my dear." Your turn. The better to see you with, my dear. Then she said, "Grandmother, what big teeth you have." Say it again. What big teeth you have. And the wolf shouted, "The better to eat you with." Repeat that. The better to eat you with. Then the wolf jumped up and swallowed her too. Say it. The wolf swallowed her too. But soon, Hunter came and saved them both. Repeat. A hunter came and saved them both. After that day, Little Red Riding Hood learned her lesson. Say it with me. She learned her lesson. She never talked to strangers again, and she always stayed on the path. Repeat it proudly. Never talk to strangers. Always stay on the path. Excellent. You just retold the entire story. That's wonderful speaking practice, my friend. Now, let's review everything we learned from Little Red Riding Hood. This story teaches us about listening, safety, and courage. Let's start with a few simple questions. Question 1. Who was Little Red Riding Hood going to visit? Say the answer. She was going to visit her grandmother. Great! Let's try another one. Question 2. What did her mother tell her before she left? Say it with me. Don't talk to strangers and stay on the path. Perfect. Now, question 3. Who did Little Red Riding Hood meet in the forest? That's right, she met a wolf. Question 4. What did the wolf tell her to do? He said, pick some flowers for your grandmother. Question 5. Was that good advice? No, it was a trick. Now let's talk about what happened next. The wolf ran ahead and ate the grandmother. Then he dressed up in her clothes and waited for the girl. When Little Red Riding Hood came in, she noticed something strange. She said, what big eyes you have. Then, what big teeth you have. And the wolf shouted, the better to eat you with. Let's pause here. Imagine you are Little Red Riding Hood. What would you do if you saw the wolf? Would you run away? Would you scream? Or would you call for help? Think about it. What is the safest thing to do? Now say your answer out loud. Good. You're thinking like a smart, careful person. Next question. Who came to save Little Red Riding Hood and her grandmother? Yes, the hunter. Say it clearly. The hunter saved them both. He was brave and quick to act. Now repeat after me. Bravery can save lives. Once more, bravery can save lives. Now, let's talk about the lesson of this story. Repeat with me. Always listen to your parents. And again, always listen to your parents. Next, do not trust strangers. Say it again, do not trust strangers. And one more, be brave and stay calm. Excellent. You sound amazing. Now, let's imagine the story after it ended. Little Red Riding Hood and her grandmother sat together drinking tea. They laughed and said, we are safe now. Outside, the forest was quiet and peaceful again. The birds were singing, and the sunlight warmed their faces. Little Red Riding Hood smiled and said softly, I will always remember what I learned today. Say it with her. I will always remember what I learned today. Then she hugged her grandmother and went home happily. Her mother welcomed her with open arms and said, I'm proud of you. And Little Red Riding Hood answered, I'll never talk to strangers again. Say it one last time. I'll never talk to strangers again. That's the end of our story, my dear listener. But every ending is also a new beginning. You can be like Little Red Riding Hood, kind, brave, and smart. So, what will you do today to be a little braver? Think about it, and say it out loud today. I will be brave. Once more with a smile today, I will be brave. Wonderful! You did amazing shadowing practice today. Remember, stories help us grow stronger, kinder, and wiser. Thank you for listening and speaking with me. This is the end of Little Red Riding Hood. Goodbye, and see you again in the next fairy tale. Once upon a time, in the heart of a quiet countryside, there was a small farm surrounded by golden fields. The summer sun shone warmly over the meadows, and the air was filled with the songs of birds and the rustling of leaves. In a cozy corner of the farmyard, beside a gentle pond, a mother duck sat on her nest. She had been waiting patiently for many days, keeping her eggs warm beneath her soft feathers. At last, one fine morning, the eggs began to crack, one after another. Tiny beaks poked through the shells, and soon the nest was alive with soft chirping. The mother duck was overjoyed. Quack, quack, she said proudly, watching her little ducklings tumble about. But one egg still lay in the nest, larger and paler than the rest. The mother duck frowned. That one's taking longer than usual, she murmured, settling back down on it. Days passed, and at last, the big egg began to move. Crack! Out came a large, gray duckling. He was clumsy, his feathers dull and messy, and his legs seemed too long for his body. The other ducklings blinked and shuffled away. He doesn't look like us, one of them whispered. The mother duck tilted her head. You're a bit strange looking, my dear. But come along, it's time to see the world." She led her brood toward the pond, where the sunlight sparkled on the water. The ducklings jumped in with joy, splashing and paddling clumsily in circles. Even the gray ones swam beautifully. "Ah," said the mother, "you may be different, but you're no less a duck." After their swim, the mother took her children around the farm to meet the others. They met the chickens, who clucked and stared, and the cat, who purred with sly eyes. But wherever they went, the other animals laughed and pointed at the gray duckling. "Look at that ugly one," squawked a hen. "What a funny color," crowed the rooster. The little duckling hung his head low. He didn't understand why they hated him. At night, he sat apart from his brothers and sisters, watching the stars reflected in the pond. "Why am I so different?" he whispered sadly. But the stars gave no answer. The days grew colder, and the duckling's sadness grew heavier than the autumn fog. The farm animals became crueler as the days went by. They pecked at him, hissed at him, and called him names whenever he passed. Even his own brothers and sisters joined in, mocking his gray feathers and awkward walk. The poor duckling could no longer bear the pain of being so unwanted. One night, under the light of a pale moon, he decided to run away. He slipped through the fence and into the dark forest, his little heart pounding with fear. Owls hooted, branches cracked beneath his feet, and shadows danced all around him. But he kept walking, further and further, until the farm was just a memory behind him. At dawn, he found a small pond, still and misty, and dipped his beak into the cool water. He felt a bit of peace, but it didn't last long. Two wild ducks flew down beside him. "Who are you?" they asked curiously. "I'm just a duckling," he said shyly, "and I'm all alone." The wild ducks studied him closely. "You look strange," they said, "but if you can fly, you might survive." Before he could answer, gunshots echoed across the sky hunters. The wild ducks took off in fright, and the ugly duckling dove under the reeds, trembling. For hours, he hid as dogs barked and men shouted nearby, their footsteps splashing through the water. When silence finally returned, the pond lay still, broken only by the duckling's quiet sobs. Cold and hungry, he wandered through the marsh until he found a tiny cottage. An old woman lived there with her cat and a hen. When she saw the duckling, she smiled kindly. "Perhaps you'll lay eggs for me someday," she said. So she let him stay, giving him a corner by the warm fire. But the cat and the hen were not so kind. "What use are you if you don't lay eggs?" they sneered. The duckling tried to explain, "I just want to swim and feel the water beneath me." "Swim?" cried the hen. "That's silly. None of us do such nonsense here." The cat flicked its tail and hissed, "You'll never fit in, ugly one." Once again, the duckling felt unwanted, even in this small, quiet home. He looked out the window at the blue sky and whispered, "I think the world must be bigger than this." And with that, he left the cottage, stepping into the unknown once more. The world outside was vast and cold, but the duckling walked bravely into it. Autumn leaves drifted through the air, painting the ground in gold and red. He wandered through fields and forests, always searching for a place to belong. Sometimes he met other animals, but they always laughed or turned away. As the days grew shorter, the wind became sharp, and frost began to cover the land. The duckling shivered, his feathers no match for the biting cold. He found a lonely pond and decided to stay, hoping it might be his home for a while. But soon, ice began to form along the edges, trapping him in the freezing water. He tried to flap his wings, but they were too weak. He was stuck. Just when he thought he would freeze completely, a farmer came by with his dog. The man broke the ice gently and lifted the shivering duckling into his coat. "Poor little thing," said the farmer kindly. "You'll be safe with us." He carried the duckling home and placed him near the fire to warm up. But the farmer's children laughed and chased him around, thinking it was fun. The duckling panicked, knocking over a bowl of milk and splashing everywhere. The mother shouted, the children screamed, and the poor duckling fled out the door. He ran into the snow, his tiny feet sinking into the white powder. Cold wind bit his face, and his breath came out in soft clouds of frost. He found shelter beneath a bush, curling up tightly against the cold. The winter was long and cruel, and each night he dreamed of warm sunlight and gentle waters. Snow fell thick and silent, blanketing the world in white. Sometimes he thought he would never see another spring. But one morning, after many lonely days, the air felt softer and the snow began to melt. Tiny streams of water trickled past his resting place, whispering promises of change. The duckling lifted his head and blinked. The world was bright again. The sky was blue, and the wind smelled of life. He stretched his wings, they felt stronger than before. With a deep breath, he flapped them hard, and to his amazement, he lifted off the ground. Up, up he went, soaring into the clear sky for the very first time. Below him, rivers sparkled, and trees swayed in the breeze. He felt free, truly free for the first time in his life. The wind carried him far beyond the forests he had known, into new lands filled with color and sound. After a long flight, the duckling came upon a large shimmering lake surrounded by tall reeds. He landed softly on the surface, letting the cool water wash over his tired wings. It was peaceful there, quiet except for the gentle ripple of the lake and the whisper of the wind. Then, suddenly, he saw them creatures more beautiful than anything he had ever imagined. They were tall, graceful, with long necks and snowy white feathers that glowed in the sunlight. They moved across the water like floating clouds, elegant and silent. The duckling had never seen such beings before. His heart ached with admiration and longing. "What are they?" he whispered to himself. "They are so beautiful, and I am so ugly." He hid among the reeds, afraid to be seen, but unable to look away. Days passed, and he watched them from afar, wishing he could be part of their world. When he looked at his reflection in the water, he saw only the same gray, awkward bird. "I could never be like them," he thought sadly. "They would never accept me." But something deep within him kept whispering, "Stay, wait, hope." Seasons changed again, and warm breezes replaced the chill of winter. The trees grew green, the flowers bloomed, and life returned to the world. The duckling, now stronger and larger, swam in the lake one morning, lost in thought. As he swam, he noticed something strange about the water. The surface shimmered differently, and when he looked down, he gasped. The reflection staring back at him was not gray or awkward anymore. It was pure white, elegant, with long wings and a graceful neck. He blinked in disbelief, turning this way and that, but the image did not change. He was no longer an ugly duckling. He was a swan. At that moment, the other swans noticed him and glided toward him. The duckling no. The young swan froze, his heart racing with both fear and wonder. "Will they mock me too?" he thought, "or chase me away?" But when they reached him, they bowed their heads gently and circled him in welcome. He felt warmth rise within him, a joy he had never known before. Then, from the shore, some children appeared, pointing excitedly at the swans. Look at the new one," a little girl shouted. "He's the most beautiful of them all." The words echoed in his heart like music. "Beautiful? Me?" Tears welled in his eyes as the truth finally settled in. He had never been ugly, only different. And now, his difference had become his beauty. The swans spread their wings and rose into the air, and the young swan followed. Up, up they soared together, their wings cutting through the golden light of morning. Below them, the lake sparkled, and the world stretched wide and endless. And for the first time, the young swan knew he was home. The young swan glided across the sky, feeling the wind rush beneath his wings. Every beat of his wings felt like a song, a celebration of life itself. Below him lay the world he had once feared: the farm, the woods, the frozen ponds. He remembered every moment of his struggle, every insult, every lonely night. And yet, without those moments, he would never have learned to fly so high. He realized then that beauty was not about how others saw him, but about who he had become. He was strong, kind, and full of courage, and that made him truly beautiful. The other swans flew beside him, their wings moving in perfect rhythm. Together they soared over mountains and rivers, through golden sunlight and silver rain. Wherever they went, people stopped and gazed up in awe at their grace. The young swan no longer felt the need to hide or prove himself. He simply lived, free and proud, part of the world that had once rejected him. Sometimes he would see his reflection in the lakes below and smile, not out of vanity, but gratitude for the journey that made him who he was. He thought of the little ducklings he had once envied, the farmyard he had left behind. He wished them happiness and silently forgave those who had hurt him. He knew they had not understood, just as he had not understood himself back then. Now, with the sky as his home, he carried no anger, no bitterness, only peace. The seasons continued to turn, and years passed gently like the ripples on a pond. But every spring, when the first flowers bloomed, he would return to the same lake. It was there that he had found himself, and he never forgot. When he saw young ducklings waddling near the water, he felt a tender smile on his beak. He watched them with gentle eyes, remembering the fear and hope of his own youth. And when one of them looked uncertain or shy, he would spread his wings and fly low above them. The ducklings would look up, wide-eyed, inspired by the beauty of the great white bird. And the swan would think quietly, "If only they knew I was once just like them." He would glide back over the lake, feeling the warmth of the sun and the coolness of the breeze. Life, he realized, was not about being born perfect, but about becoming whole. Every hardship, every tear, every moment of doubt had shaped him into what he was now. And for that, he was endlessly grateful. One evening, as the sun began to set, the sky burned with shades of gold and crimson. The lake glowed like glass, reflecting the beauty of the heavens above. The swan rested on the water, calm and content, watching the world in silence. He thought of the journey that had brought him here, from rejection to belonging, from fear to freedom. It had been long and painful, but every moment had mattered. Without the dark, he would never have understood the light. Without loneliness, he would never have known the joy of being loved. And without being called ugly, he might never have discovered his true beauty. As twilight fell, a soft breeze rippled across the water, and the swan closed his eyes. He felt the peace of knowing who he was, and that was enough. The stars began to appear, one by one, like tiny lanterns in the sky. The swan raised his head, gazing at their gentle light, feeling small yet part of something vast. He thought of all the creatures in the world, big or small, strong or weak, beautiful or plain. And he wished that each of them could find their place, just as he had found his. Because everyone, no matter how they begin, carries a spark of beauty inside them. Sometimes the world is too blind to see it, but that doesn't mean it isn't there. All it takes is time, patience, and faith to let it shine through. The swan spread his wings one last time and glided across the glowing surface of the lake. Each movement was pure grace, a dance between sky and water. As he lifted off, the golden light wrapped around him like a blessing. He rose higher and higher until he was just a white shape against the fading sky. And in that moment, it seemed as if the world itself smiled. For the ugly duckling was ugly no more. He had always been a swan. He had simply needed time to grow, to learn, and to believe in himself. And that, dear listener, is the story of how one small, unwanted creature became something truly magnificent. A reminder that no matter how others see you, your worth has always been within you. And that one day, your wings too will open and you will fly. The end.
She traded her voice for love and lost herself to the sea. Beneath the endless waves, where sunlight turned to whispers, there lived a kingdom forgotten by men, a kingdom of silence, beauty, and sorrow, ruled by the sea, and guarded by the songs of mermaids. Among them was the youngest daughter, a girl with eyes like dawn and hair like the color of deep water. She loved stories of the world above, of stars that never drowned and people who could walk under the sky. Each night she swam upward, breaking the surface to watch ships drift like dreams across the horizon. Her heart ached for a life she had never lived, for air, for touch, for the warmth of sunlight on skin. On her 15th birthday, she rose to the surface under a sky filled with falling stars. There, in the distance, a ship glowed with light and laughter, music spilling across the waves. She watched from behind the foam, her heart trembling as she saw a young prince on the deck. He was smiling, the kind of smile that makes even the sea hold its breath. Then the wind turned, the storm rose like a scream from the deep. Lightning cracked open the sky, and the ship shattered against the black waves. The prince fell sinking, silent, into the cold arms of the ocean. Without thought, she swam after him, faster than fear, deeper than light. She held him close, her tail wrapping around his body, her heart beating against his still chest. Through the night, she kept him afloat, whispering songs he would never hear. When dawn came, she carried him to shore, laying him upon the sand where the waves kissed his hands. She watched him breathe again, sunlight touching his face like a blessing. Then she slipped back into the sea, leaving only her shadow in the foam. That day, she learned the cruel truth of love, to give everything and remain unseen. From that moment, she could no longer sing. Every melody she knew tasted like his name. Every night, she rose to the same shore, hoping to see him once more. She saw his palace in the distance, the lights flickering like stars she could never touch. He walked the gardens, spoke to the sea, and sometimes she thought he was listening. But love is cruel when it belongs to one heart alone. Her sisters warned her, forget him. The sea does not forgive those who dream of air. Yet she could not stop. Longing had become her tide and it pulled her upward, always upward. One night, she swam to the forbidden trench, where the sea witch dwelled. The water grew cold, heavy with secrets. The light disappeared behind her. She entered the cave of bones and whispers, where dreams came true and lives were lost. The witch smiled with teeth like pearls stolen from the dead. I know what you want, she said, and I know what it will cost. Your voice, the song that could melt the sea itself, you will give it to me. And in return, I will give you legs, fragile, bleeding, human legs. But every step will burn like fire, Every breath will remind you you don't belong. And if the prince loves another, your heart will break and your body will become foam at dawn. The little mermaid looked down, her eyes trembling, but she nodded, because love, to her, was worth every pain. The witch laughed and the sea trembled as the deal was made. The potion burned her throat like salt and thunder. She sank into darkness, her tail splitting apart, her song torn from her chest. When she awoke, she was lying on the sand trembling, gasping, human. The waves touched her feet for the first time, and pain shot through her like lightning. But when she looked up, she saw him, the prince, standing against the morning sun. He found her there, voiceless and fragile, and carried her to his palace by the sea. She could not speak, but her eyes told stories no words could hold. He smiled at her kindness, at her laughter without sound. He said she reminded him of someone, the girl who saved him that night. The mermaid's heart broke quietly. He did not know it was her, but she stayed by his side, walking through fire with every step, bleeding behind every smile. At night, she would dance for him, graceful, radiant, and dying inside. Her tears tasted like the sea she left behind. Sometimes, when he looked out to the ocean, she wished he could see her, the real her, but he only saw waves, never the girl who gave him her voice. Still, she smiled because loving him, even in silence, felt better than breathing without him. Days passed, seasons turned, and she grew weaker, though she never complained. Then came the day he was to sail away to another kingdom, to meet a princess. He told her gently, "You remind me of her, the one who saved my life." Her lips trembled, but no sound came. She wanted to say, "It was me," but love had taken her voice long ago. She followed him on that voyage, the sea whispering warnings she refused to hear. At the royal harbor, the princess waited, her eyes kind, her smile familiar. The mermaid's heart froze. It was her, the girl from the temple. The prince ran to her, joy breaking through his face like sunrise after storm. That night, the mermaid stood by the railing, watching fireworks bloom above the sea. The ship shone with laughter and love she could never touch. Her feet burned with every heartbeat, her soul begged for mercy. And still, she smiled because he was happy. That smile was her last gift to him, the last lie she told her heart. As midnight fell, her sisters rose from the sea, their hair floating like silver in the moonlight. They held a knife of crystal bought with their own hair, paid in tears. "Take it," they said, "kill him before dawn, and you will return to us. His blood will wash your curse away. You can come home." The mermaid stared at the knife and the reflection of his sleeping face in the blade. She walked into the cabin, silent as the sea at rest. He slept beside the princess, hand in hand, dreaming of forever. Her tears fell onto the floor, salt meeting salt. She raised the knife, her hands shaking, love and death tangled between her fingers. Then she dropped it, letting it fall back into the sea that once called her home. The blade sank beneath the waves, swallowed by the darkness below. She stood there, trembling, watching the first light of dawn spill across the sky. The sea called her name, gentle now, like a mother forgiving her child. She climbed to the railing, her white dress fluttering like a dying flame. One last time, she looked at him, the man who had her heart, her voice, her soul. He slept peacefully, dreaming beside another. She smiled through her tears, a smile no one would remember, but the sea would never forget. And then she jumped. The water embraced her like an old friend, cold and endless. Pain faded, her body dissolved into foam. White and silent beneath the rising sun, the waves carried her across the horizon where the sky met eternity. But she did not vanish, not completely. Her spirit rose with the morning breeze, light as mist, free as song. She looked back at the ship, at the prince, at the life she could never have, and whispered, "Love was enough." The wind carried her words across the ocean, brushing against his cheek as he woke. He turned toward the sea, hearing nothing, feeling everything. Some say he heard a sigh in the waves, soft and sorrowful. Others say the sea shimmered brighter that morning, as if smiling through tears. The kingdom went on. The ships kept sailing, the waves kept singing, and deep beneath, where no light reached, her sisters still waited, listening for her song. But the sea had taken it. Her song now belonged to the wind. It drifted through storms and sunsets, whispering of a love that burned too bright. Sometimes, sailors say they hear it, a soft voice humming beneath the waves, a song without words, a promise without end. They say if you listen long enough, the sea will tell you her story, about the girl who gave everything for love and found peace in letting go. The waves still remember her name, though time has forgotten her face. And when the wind sighs through the sails, it carries her final truth, that love, even when it hurts, even when it ends, was never wasted. For love, real love, always finds its way back to the sea.
Once upon a time, in a faraway kingdom hidden deep within a misty forest, there stood a grand castle, lonely, silent, and covered in roses that never bloomed. Inside that castle lived a beast. He was once a handsome prince, proud, selfish, and cruel. But one cold winter night, an old beggar woman came to his door asking for shelter. Disgusted by her appearance, the prince turned her away. Little did he know, the woman was an enchantress. With a flash of light, she cursed him. His beautiful face turned monstrous. His heart grew heavy with sorrow. Only one thing could break the spell: if he could learn to love and be loved in return, before the last petal of a magical rose fell. Years passed. The castle grew darker. Hope faded. Until one day, a young woman named Belle wandered into the forest. Belle was unlike anyone else in her village. She loved books more than jewels, dreams more than gossip. Her father, a humble inventor, got lost one stormy night and sought refuge in the beast's castle. But the beast, consumed by anger and loneliness, threw him into the dungeon. When Belle discovered what had happened, she rushed to the castle. Without fear, she faced the beast. Her voice trembled, yet her eyes were full of courage. "Take me instead," she said. "Let my father go." The beast hesitated. For the first time, he felt something strange. Not rage, but guilt. He agreed. Days turned into weeks. The beast watched Belle from afar. She was kind, gentle, yet fierce in spirit. She saw beauty in books and laughter in the smallest acts of kindness. Slowly, something began to change. He started to care. He learned to listen. He even smiled again. And Belle saw the man behind the monster, the sadness behind his roar, the goodness behind his scars. They shared stories. They danced beneath candlelight. And for a moment, the world outside didn't exist. But when Belle's father fell ill, the beast let her go, even though he knew it would break the spell. "Go to him," he said softly, his voice trembling like the last petal on the rose. "I'll be fine." Belle rushed home, but her heart stayed behind. When she returned to the castle, it was too late. The beast lay still, the rose down to its final petal. She held him close and whispered, "Don't leave me. I love you." And in that moment, light filled the castle once more. The curse was lifted. The beast was gone, but in his place stood the prince, eyes filled with tears and wonder. Belle smiled. She had seen the truth all along, that love is not about perfection, but about compassion, sacrifice, and seeing with the heart. And from that day on, the roses bloomed again.
Hello and welcome to Tales by Rabbit, where every story brings inspiration and magic. Once upon a time, in a kingdom wrapped in misty hills and sparkling rivers, there lived a king and a queen loved by all their people. They had ruled with wisdom and kindness for many years, and their subjects cherished them dearly. Yet, despite their many blessings, there was one wish that had not been fulfilled. The king and queen had no child. Every night, the queen would gaze at the stars and whisper, "Oh, how I wish for a child to share our love and joy." The king would hold her close, hoping that one day their wish would come true. And indeed, one magical night, under a skylight with shooting stars, the queen gave birth to a beautiful baby girl named Aurora. To celebrate her birth, the king invited all the wise and magical beings from far and wide to a grand feast. Among them were 3 kind fairies, known for their gentle hearts and powerful magic. The first fairy, with eyes like emeralds, said, "May Aurora always have a heart filled with kindness and love." The second fairy, with hair like silver moonlight, blessed her with the gift of wisdom, so she may see truth where others see only shadows. The third fairy, radiant and warm, proclaimed, "May Aurora find joy and courage in even the darkest of times." The celebration was merry, with music and laughter filling the castle halls. However, as the fairies left, a shadow fell across the room. From the darkest corner of the hall emerged a figure the kingdom had not seen before, a sorceress who had been overlooked, forgotten by the king in his invitation. Her robes were deep as midnight, and her eyes glimmered with a cold light. "I see a child has been born," she said, her voice smooth yet sharp. "The kingdom has forgotten me. How thoughtless of you." The room grew tense, the candles flickering in unease. "Since I was forgotten, I shall give a gift of my own." The king stepped forward, trembling. "Please, do not bring harm to our daughter." But the sorceress smiled cruelly. "It is not harm, yet it is fate. On the day she turns 16, the princess shall prick her finger on a spinning wheel and fall into a slumber from which she shall never wake." Gasps echoed through the hall. The fairies whispered amongst themselves, their faces grave. The king and queen felt a cold shiver run down their spines, for no one could undo a curse of such magnitude. Yet, the third fairy, the one who had granted joy and courage, stepped forward. "Though the curse is strong, it shall not be the end," she said. "Aurora shall not perish. Instead, she will sleep until the power of true love awakens her. And in that love, she will find not only life but strength and wisdom beyond her years." The king, determined to protect his daughter, ordered that every spinning wheel in the kingdom be destroyed. Aurora grew up in a castle filled with love and magic. Unaware of the fate that awaited her, she learned to read, to paint, to dance under the sunlight in the castle gardens, and her laughter became the music of the kingdom. Time passed swiftly, and Aurora's 16th birthday drew near. Despite the precautions, fate has a way of finding its path. In a quiet, forgotten tower of the castle, hidden behind dust and shadows, a lone spinning wheel remained. Drawn by curiosity, Aurora discovered it. She had never seen such a device, and her fascination with its whirring wheel was innocent. As her fingers brushed the spindle, a sharp prick made her gasp. Her eyes grew heavy, and she fell backward onto a bed of silken sheets, deep into a magical sleep. The castle plunged into silence, sorrow, and stillness. The king and queen wept for their daughter. though the fairies reminded them to hold hope, for true love would come. The news of the sleeping princess spread across the lands. Brave knights, clever scholars, and hopeful suitors tried to awaken her, yet none succeeded. Years passed, and the tale of Aurora became legend, a story whispered by the wind and sung by wandering minstrels. In a distant kingdom, there lived a prince named Leo. Unlike other princes, he was known not for his sword, but for his heart. He traveled not to conquer, but to understand the world and help those in need. One day, while visiting a village, he heard an old woman tell the story of the sleeping princess, Aurora. The tale struck a chord deep within him. He felt a pull, as though destiny was calling. Guided by his heart and the stories he had heard, Leo journeyed to Aurora's castle. The path was long and treacherous, winding through dense forests and across misty valleys. Yet he pressed on, determined to fulfill what he felt was his destiny. Along the way, he encountered challenges that tested his courage, kindness, and wisdom. He helped a lost traveler find her way home and shared food with hungry children. Each act of selflessness strengthened his heart and spirit. Finally, he reached the castle, its towers shrouded in ivy and mystery. Within, he found the sleeping princess, serene and radiant even in slumber. Kneeling beside her, he took her hand gently. "Aurora," he whispered, "you are loved, and you are meant to awaken. The power of true love is not only in a kiss, but in courage, compassion, and hope." A gentle warmth spread through the room, soft as dawn's first light. Aurora's eyes fluttered open, and she gazed upon Leo, a smile breaking across her face. The curse had been broken, not by force, but by the pure bond of love and understanding. Aurora rose from her slumber, wiser and stronger, her heart brimming with compassion. She embraced her parents, who wept tears of joy, and the kingdom rejoiced at her awakening. Aurora and Leo spent time learning about each other and the world beyond the castle walls. They discovered that true love was not a sudden feeling, but a journey of respect, kindness, and shared dreams. Together, they worked to heal old wounds in the kingdom and care for those in need. They fostered a world where magic and goodness thrive side by side. Aurora learned that destiny is not simply given, but shaped by the choices we make and the love we share. The kingdom flourished, not merely because a princess awakened from her sleep, but because courage, wisdom, and kindness had become the true magic of their lives. The tale of Aurora, the sleeping princess, was told for generations, not as a story of fear, but as a story of hope, resilience, and the transformative power of love. Whenever the wind whispered through the castle towers, it carried a message to all who listened. Even in the darkest slumber, light and love can awaken the heart. Aurora and Leo continued to live with kindness in their hearts, ruling the kingdom with fairness and wisdom. They visited villages, helped the poor, and encouraged learning and creativity among their people. The castle gardens bloomed with every color imaginable, reflecting the joy and hope in the kingdom. Aurora took lessons from the fairies, learning magic that healed and nurtured. Leo studied the art of diplomacy and compassion, ensuring that no one felt forgotten. Together, they built a realm where stories of courage, love, and wisdom were celebrated. Children would gather in the castle halls to hear Aurora tell tales of hope and adventure. She reminded them that even ordinary actions, like helping a neighbor or speaking kindly, were forms of magic. Leo would accompany her, teaching that bravery is not the absence of fear, but the courage to act despite it. The kingdom became a place where dreams were nurtured and every citizen felt valued. As the years passed, Aurora and Leo's love deepened, not through grand gestures, but through trust, respect, and shared experiences. They faced challenges together, whether disputes among neighboring kingdoms or storms that threatened their lands. Yet they met every difficulty with patience, compassion, and thoughtful solutions. The kingdom prospered, and stories of their deeds traveled far and wide. Scholars wrote of Aurora's wisdom, poets sang of Leo's courage, and bards told tales of their joy and kindness. Visitors from distant lands came to see a kingdom where magic and goodness were one. Even those who had doubted the power of love found inspiration in their story. The fairies watched from afar, pleased that their gifts had blossomed in such extraordinary ways. And though the sorceress who had cursed Aurora had vanished, her spell had transformed into a lesson. It reminded all that challenges and hardships could be overcome with love, courage, and wisdom. Aurora often walked through the castle gardens at dusk, reflecting on the journey of her life. She thought of the fairies' blessings, the curse, and the journey that had led her to true love. And she smiled, knowing that every twist of fate, every choice, and every act of kindness had shaped her story. Leo joined her, taking her hand as they watched the sunset behind the mountains. They understood that happiness is found not in perfection, but in the journey and the love shared along the way. And so, the kingdom thrived, full of life, laughter, and hope. The tale of Aurora, the sleeping princess, and Leo, the kind-hearted prince, was told for generations. It became a story not only of magic and royalty, but of the power of courage, kindness, and love. And every time someone heard the story, they were reminded that even in the darkest moments, light can prevail. Moral of the story: true magic lies not in spells or curses, but in courage, kindness, and the love we give and receive. And with that, thank you for listening to Tales by Rabbit. We hope you enjoyed the story and found inspiration to fill your own life with magic and love. See you in the next story.
Once upon a time, during the heart of a bitterly cold winter, a queen sat by her tall window. The land outside was covered in a blanket of snow so white and pure that it sparkled like diamonds in the pale sunlight. She was sewing quietly, her needle moving up and down through the dark fabric. The room was still, and only the sound of the needle pricking through cloth could be heard. As she bent forward, she pricked her finger by accident. A few drops of bright red blood fell onto the pure snow on the windowsill. The contrast startled her. Red on white, so vivid, so striking, as if nature had painted the most beautiful picture right before her eyes. A longing stirred in her heart, and she whispered softly to herself, "I wish I had a child with skin as white as snow, lips as red as blood, and hair as black as the ebony wood of this frame." It was a small, fleeting wish, but one that seemed to echo through the silent halls of the castle. Not long after, the queen gave birth to a baby girl who looked exactly as she had dreamed. Her skin was pure white, her lips were a deep, rosy red, and her hair was as black and glossy as midnight. They named the child Snow White. The joy in the kingdom was immense. Bells rang out, and the people celebrated the birth of their princess. But happiness was brief, for the queen's health had been fragile. Soon after giving birth, she passed away. The king, though heartbroken, tried to continue ruling with wisdom and strength. After a year, he remarried, taking another queen to stand beside him. This new queen was indeed beautiful, her face radiant and her presence commanding. But her heart was not kind. She was proud, vain, and cruel. She valued beauty above all else and could not endure the thought of anyone surpassing her. The new queen owned a magical mirror, a tall and elegant piece framed with gold. Every day she stood before it and asked, "Mirror, mirror on the wall, who is the fairest one of all?" And each day, the mirror replied, "You, my queen, are the fairest of all." Those words pleased her greatly and kept her vanity alive. Years passed, and little Snow White grew. By the time she was only 7 years old, her beauty already shone brighter than most. Her white skin, her crimson lips, and her dark hair made her appear like a figure out of a dream. One morning, the queen asked her usual question, expecting the same comforting answer. But the mirror replied differently. "You are fair, O queen, it's true, but Snow White is fairer than you." The queen's face darkened. Fury burned in her chest, jealousy turned into hatred, and hatred into a dangerous obsession. From that day, she could not bear the sight of Snow White. Each smile, each innocent word from the child only deepened the queen's envy. Finally, her rage reached its breaking point. She summoned a huntsman, a loyal servant, and gave him a dreadful order. "Take Snow White into the forest," she commanded coldly. "Kill her and bring me her heart as proof that she is dead." The huntsman bowed, unable to disobey. He led the innocent girl into the deep forest. Snow White followed, unaware of the fate that awaited her. As they reached the shadowy woods, the huntsman stopped. He looked down at the child, her wide eyes filled with trust. His hands trembled as he raised his knife. But then Snow White began to cry. "Please, dear huntsman," she pleaded, "don't hurt me. Let me go, and I promise I will never return." The huntsman's heart softened. He could not harm such a kind, innocent child. He lowered his knife, sighing deeply. "Run, child," he said. "Run far and never come back." To deceive the queen, he killed a wild boar and cut out its heart. He carried it back to the castle and presented it as Snow White's. Believing her stepdaughter dead, the queen had the heart cooked and ate it, thinking she had rid herself of her rival forever. Meanwhile, Snow White was left alone in the forest. Fear gripped her as towering trees loomed over her. The forest was dark, and every rustle of leaves made her flinch. She stumbled through the undergrowth, her dress torn and her feet sore. "What will I do? Where am I?" she whispered again and again. She ran for hours, not knowing where she was going. Finally, as the sun began to set, she came upon a strange little house in a clearing. The house was small and curious. Inside, she found 7 tiny plates set upon a table, 7 cups neatly placed, and 7 little beds lined against the wall. Hunger gnawed at her stomach, so she tasted a little food from each plate and drank a sip from each cup. Weary and exhausted, she tried each of the 7 beds until she found one that felt just right. Curling up under the blanket, she fell into a deep sleep. That night, 7 dwarfs returned from mining in the mountains. They entered their home and immediately noticed something unusual. "Someone has been sitting in my chair," said one. "Someone has been drinking from my cup," said another. "Someone has eaten from my plate," cried the third. Then they discovered the girl asleep in one of their beds. "Who is she?" they whispered. "She's so beautiful," said the youngest. They decided not to wake her and let her sleep peacefully. In the morning, Snow White awoke, startled to find 7 little men standing by her bed, but their faces were kind and gentle. They asked who she was and how she had come to be there. Snow White told them everything: the wicked stepmother, the huntsman's mercy, and her wandering through the woods until she found their cottage. The dwarfs listened carefully. Then they offered her shelter. "If you stay here and keep the house tidy, cook, clean, sew, and wash, you can live with us," they said. "We will protect you." Grateful, Snow White agreed. And so, for a time, she lived happily with the dwarfs. Each morning, before they left for the mines, the dwarfs warned her, "Be careful. Don't let anyone in. Your stepmother may find out you are still alive." Back at the palace, the queen stood before her mirror once more. "Mirror, mirror on the wall, who is the fairest one of all?" To her horror, the mirror replied, "You are fair, O queen, it's true, but Snow White, beyond the hills with 7 dwarfs, is fairer still." Rage filled the queen's heart. "I will not be thwarted," she hissed. Disguising herself as an old peddler woman, she traveled over the mountains to the dwarf's cottage. She knocked and called out, "Lovely laces for sale, beautiful ribbons." Snow White, thinking this harmless, opened the door and admired the lace. "Oh, how lovely," she said. The disguised queen smiled. "Allow me, dearie. Such a pretty thing needs to be just right." She tightened the lace around Snow White's waist until the girl collapsed, breathless. The queen cackled and hurried away. When the dwarfs returned, they found Snow White lifeless, but they quickly loosened the lace, reviving her. "That was your stepmother," they warned. "Promise us you won't open the door again." Snow White promised. The very next day, the queen asked her mirror again. When she learned Snow White still lived, her fury grew. Disguising herself once more, she crafted a poisonous comb and set out again. "Pretty combs for your lovely hair," she called at the cottage. Snow White hesitated. "I must not let anyone in," she murmured. "No need, dear," said the queen sweetly. "Just take a look from your window." Snow White admired the comb. When the woman offered to fix it in her hair, she allowed it. But the moment the comb touched her head, poison spread, and she collapsed once more. When the dwarfs returned, they searched and found the comb. Pulling it out, they revived her again. "You must never, ever open the door to strangers," they said sternly. But the queen was not done. She brewed her most dangerous trick, a beautiful red and white apple, poisoned only on one side. She dressed as a farmer woman and knocked on the dwarf's door. "Delicious apples, fresh from the orchard," she called. Snow White shook her head. "I can't let anyone in." "That's all right," said the woman gently. "Here, I'll cut this one in half. You eat the red side and I'll eat the white. That way, you'll see it's safe." Snow White hesitated, but the apple looked so tempting. She took a bite and fell to the ground, motionless. The queen laughed in triumph and disappeared into the woods. When the dwarfs returned, they could not revive her. They tried everything, but nothing worked. Snow White did not breathe. She was gone. For 3 days, they wept over her. Then, unwilling to bury her beauty, they built a glass coffin and placed her inside. They set it on the mountain, and one of them always stood watch. Back at the castle, the queen asked her mirror once more. This time it replied, "You, my queen, are the fairest of all." Finally satisfied, she smiled darkly. Time passed. One day, a prince rode through the forest and saw the glass coffin. Inside lay the most beautiful girl he had ever seen. Reading the golden letters that named her Snow White, daughter of a king, his heart was moved. "Please," he begged the dwarfs, "let me take her with me. I will honor her memory always." At first, the dwarfs refused, but the prince pleaded so sincerely that they finally agreed. As his servants carried the coffin, they stumbled on a root. The jolt caused the piece of poisoned apple to pop from Snow White's throat. Her eyes fluttered open. She breathed once more. "Where am I?" she whispered. The prince clasped her hand. "You're safe now. Come with me to my castle. Will you be my queen?" Snow White smiled, her heart full of gratitude and joy. She agreed, and soon a grand wedding was held. The dwarfs attended as honored guests, and the people celebrated the union with music and laughter. But the wicked queen, still believing Snow White was dead, was invited as well. Before she left, she asked her mirror once more, "Mirror, mirror on the wall, who is the fairest one of all?" The mirror replied, "You, my queen, are fair, it's true. But the new queen is fairer than you." Terror filled her heart. She had to see who this new queen was. At the wedding feast, she realized the truth. Snow White stood radiant beside her prince. The queen's fate was sealed. A cruel punishment had been prepared. She was forced to wear red-hot iron shoes and dance until she dropped to the floor, never to rise again. And so Snow White and her prince ruled their kingdom with kindness and joy. She never forgot the dwarfs who had saved her, and they visited often, always welcomed as honored guests. Together, they lived happily ever after.
Cinderella, the girl who believed in kindness. Once upon a time, in a faraway kingdom filled with golden meadows and singing rivers, there lived a young girl named Cinderella. Her real name had been Ella, but after years of sleeping by the cold fireplace, covered in ashes, people began to call her Cinderella. Cinderella once lived happily with her mother and father. Her mother was gentle and kind, always teaching her that kindness is magic that never fades. But when Cinderella's mother passed away, her father grew lonely and decided to marry again, a woman with 2 daughters from a previous marriage. At first, Cinderella hoped for love and friendship from her new family, but soon after her father died unexpectedly, everything changed. Her stepmother's true nature appeared, cold, proud, and cruel. She forced Cinderella to live in the attic, sleep on straw, and wear old torn clothes. Her stepsisters, Anastasia and Drizella, were spoiled and selfish. They mocked her simple dresses and soft voice. Every morning while they enjoyed breakfast in bed, Cinderella woke up before dawn to light the fires, cook their meals, and scrub the floors until her hands ached. And yet, she never complained. Every day, she remembered her mother's words, "Be kind, even when the world is not kind to you." One sunny morning, as Cinderella was hanging laundry in the garden, she heard laughter from the village. A royal messenger was reading an announcement. Open quote, "By order of His Majesty the King, a grand ball will be held at the palace. Every young lady in the kingdom is invited, for the prince shall choose his bride." Close quote. The whole kingdom was thrilled. Dresses were made, ribbons were bought, and excitement filled the air. Even Cinderella's stepsister squealed with joy. "Can you imagine?" Drizella giggled. "Me, a princess? Don't be silly," Anastasia snapped. "I'll be the one to marry the prince." Cinderella smiled softly. "I'd love to go too," she whispered. Her stepmother glared. You have no gown, no jewels, and no manners for a royal ball. Stay home and clean the house." That night, while her stepsisters danced around in their new gowns, Cinderella quietly helped them prepare, fixing their hair, sewing their dresses, polishing their shoes. When the carriage finally left for the palace, she sat by the fireplace and cried. Her tears fell silently onto the cold ashes. "If only I could go, just once, to see the palace." Suddenly, a gentle light filled the room. A soft voice said, "Why are you crying, dear child?" Cinderella turned and gasped. Before her stood a kind old woman with a warm smile and eyes that sparkled like starlight. "Who are you?" Cinderella asked. "I am your fairy godmother, my dear," said the woman, "and you shall go to the ball tonight." "But I have no dress, no carriage." Her fairy godmother lifted her wand and laughed. "We'll see about that." With a flick and a swirl of silver dust, magic filled the air. The old pumpkin by the door turned into a golden carriage. 6 mice became handsome white horses. The old dog turned into a footman, and Cinderella's torn dress transformed into a shimmering gown made of moonlight. Her hair sparkled, and on her feet appeared delicate glass slippers, glowing like crystal. "Oh, it's beautiful," Cinderella gasped. Her fairy godmother smiled. "Now go, my dear. But remember, the spell lasts only until midnight. When the clock strikes 12, everything will return to what it was." Cinderella nodded eagerly. "Thank you, fairy godmother." And with that, the carriage rolled toward the royal palace. The palace was more magnificent than she ever imagined. Crystal chandeliers glittered above a marble floor, and music floated through the air. As Cinderella entered, everyone turned to look. Even her stepmother and stepsisters didn't recognize her. The prince, who had danced with many but loved none, saw her and was speechless. He took her hand and asked softly, "May I have this dance?" As they danced, it felt as if the world had disappeared, just the two of them, moving in perfect harmony under the golden lights. "Who are you?" the prince asked. Cinderella smiled. "Just someone who believes in kindness." Hour after hour, they danced and talked and laughed. But suddenly, the great clock began to chime. "Dong, dong, dong! Oh no!" she whispered. "It's midnight." Without another word, Cinderella ran down the palace stairs. The prince called after her, but she was gone, leaving behind only one glass slipper on the steps. The carriage, the gown, the magic, all vanished. She was once again in her torn dress, running home through the moonlit streets. The next morning, the whole kingdom buzzed with excitement. The prince had declared, open quote, "Whoever fits this glass slipper shall be my bride," close quote. The royal guards visited every house, every village. One by one, the ladies tried on the tiny slipper, but none could fit. When they reached Cinderella's home, her stepsisters tried desperately. They squeezed, pushed, and even held their breath, but the slipper wouldn't fit. Then Cinderella stepped forward quietly. "May I try?" Her stepmother laughed. "You? Don't waste their time." But the prince's servant nodded. The order was to try every maiden. Cinderella sat down and gently slipped her foot into the glass slipper, and it fit perfectly. At that very moment, the prince himself arrived. He looked into Cinderella's eyes and smiled with recognition. "It's you," he whispered, "the one I've been searching for." Her stepmother and stepsisters stood frozen in disbelief as the fairy godmother's soft laughter echoed in the air. With another wave of her wand, Cinderella's rags turned once again into the glowing gown from the ball. Soon after, the palace bells rang in celebration. Cinderella and the prince were married in a grand ceremony, attended by everyone in the kingdom. Even her stepmother and stepsisters were invited, and Cinderella forgave them with a smile. For she had learned long ago that kindness is stronger than cruelty, and love is more powerful than envy. In time, Cinderella became a beloved princess, not because of her beauty or her gown, but because of her gentle heart. She ruled with compassion, and the people often said, open quote, "The magic that changed her life wasn't in a wand or a dress, it was in her kindness," close quote. And so Cinderella lived happily ever after, reminding everyone that even when life covers you in ashes, you can still shine brighter than any diamond.
Welcome to Tales by Rabbit. Stay with me till the end. A magical story awaits. In the heart of an ancient desert city where golden sands whispered stories of old kingdoms, there lived a young man named Aladdin. He wasn't rich. He wasn't powerful. He was just a dreamer. A boy who looked at the sky and believed there was something more out there for him. Aladdin lived with his mother in a small, broken house. The roof leaked when it rained. The bread was often dry. But his hope never faded. Every morning he looked at the rising sun and whispered, "Someday I'll make it. Someday I'll prove who I am." He spent his days helping merchants, carrying baskets, and running errands in the crowded marketplace. Yet in his heart he dreamed of adventure, of freedom, of becoming someone greater. One afternoon, as the sun began to sink below the golden dunes, a tall man appeared. He wore black silk and carried an air of mystery. His eyes were sharp and cold. He approached Aladdin with a smile. "Young man," he said, "I've been watching you. You're clever, brave, and hard-working. How would you like to earn a fortune?" Aladdin's eyes widened. "A fortune? What do I have to do?" "Nothing dangerous," the man said. "Just help me retrieve something valuable from a secret place." Aladdin hesitated for a moment, but curiosity and hunger won. "All right," he said, "I'll help you." The stranger led him far beyond the city walls, through rocky hills, through silent dunes, until they reached a hidden cave. "Inside," the man said, "lies an old lamp. Bring it to me and you'll be rich." "Just a lamp?" Aladdin asked. "Yes," the man smiled, "but touch nothing else." He handed Aladdin a ring. "This will protect you." Aladdin entered the cave, and the moment he stepped inside, the ground began to glow. Jewels sparkled like stars, gold coins covered the floor. But Aladdin remembered the warning. He touched nothing. At the end of the cave, he found a small, dusty lamp sitting on a stone pedestal. He picked it up, and suddenly the cave shook. The entrance began to close. "Help! Help me!" Aladdin cried. "Give me the lamp first," the man shouted from outside. "No, get me out first!" Aladdin yelled back. The man's face turned dark. "Foolish boy!" With a flick of his hand, the entrance sealed shut. Aladdin was trapped, alone in the darkness. Hours passed. Desperate and trembling, he rubbed the lamp, and then a burst of blue smoke filled the cave. A giant figure appeared, with golden eyes and a booming voice. "I am the genie of the lamp. You have freed me. What is your wish, master?" Aladdin gasped. "You can grant wishes." "3 wishes," said the genie. "Anything your heart desires." "Then take me out of here!" In an instant, Aladdin stood once again under the open sky. The wind brushed against his face. He was free. Aladdin didn't wish for gold right away. Instead, he said, "Make me capable, make me wise, make me worthy of success." The genie nodded, and Aladdin began to change. Not by magic, but by effort, by learning, by growing. He studied, he traded, he worked hard, he became a respected merchant. But he never forgot the poor. With his second wish, he helped others. He built wells, fed the hungry, and gave jobs to those with nothing. People began whispering, "Who is this kind man?" He came from nowhere and changed everything. One day, during a royal festival, Aladdin saw Princess Layla. She was beautiful, but more than that, she was kind. She visited the poor in disguise and spoke to people with warmth. Their eyes met, and something inside Aladdin shifted. He knew she was the one. But he was still a commoner, so he worked harder than ever. When he finally approached the Sultan, he came not as a beggar, but as a man of honor. The Sultan saw his heart, he saw his goodness, and he allowed Aladdin to meet his daughter. Layla admired him, not for his wealth, but for his humility. When the Sultan asked how he achieved success, Aladdin said, "With faith, hard work, and a little help from destiny." Soon they were married. The city celebrated for days. But far away, the old magician, the man who had trapped Aladdin, heard the news, and rage burned in his eyes. One night, while Aladdin was traveling, the magician came to the palace in disguise. "Old lamps for new," he shouted. Layla, kind and innocent, saw the old lamp in the corner. She thought it was worthless, so she exchanged it for a shiny one. That night, the magician rubbed the lamp. The genie appeared. "Your wish, master." "Take the palace," the magician commanded, "and move it far, far away. Make it mine." And in a flash of light, the palace vanished. When Aladdin returned, he saw only empty ground. His heart broke. He searched day and night, through deserts, through mountains, until one night he remembered the ring, the one the magician had given him long ago. He rubbed it, and another spirit appeared. "I am the spirit of the ring. What do you seek?" "Take me to my wife," Aladdin begged, and in an instant he stood before the floating palace. He found Layla locked away, crying. When she saw him, she ran into his arms. "I didn't know," she said. "He tricked me." Aladdin smiled softly. "I know, but together we'll fix this." They planned carefully. Layla invited the magician to dinner, pretending to accept her new fate. When he was distracted, Aladdin struck and took back the lamp. "Welcome back, my true master," the genie said, smiling. Aladdin could have wished for revenge, but instead he said quietly, "Genie, I wish for freedom, yours and mine." The genie froze. "No one has ever wished for my freedom." "You've given me everything," Aladdin said. "It's time I give something back." The genie smiled for the first time in centuries. "Then it is done." And with a flash of light, the genie vanished, free at last. Years passed. Aladdin and Layla ruled with kindness. They built schools, fed the poor, taught children to believe in themselves. When people asked Aladdin the secret of his success, he always said, "Don't wait for a genie to change your life. The magic is already inside you. Your kindness, your courage, your choices." And when night fell over the desert, some said they could still see a faint blue light, the genie smiling down, watching over the boy who set him free. Moral of the story: true magic isn't in the lamp, it's in the heart. It's in courage, compassion, and the will to do what's right. Because even without a genie, you can still create miracles, if you believe in yourself.
Welcome to Tales by Rabbit, magical stories for kids and adults alike. Today, we bring you the incredible story of Paul Bunyan, the giant lumberjack who shaped the American wilderness. Once upon a time, when America was still covered with endless forests, a baby unlike any other was born. He was enormous, so big that his cradle was made from 2 pine trees tied together. His parents named him Paul Bunyan, and even as a baby, he shook the house when he left. When Paul clapped his hands, thunder rolled across the mountains. When he cried, the windows rattled for miles. As he grew older, Paul became taller than any man alive. He could lift tall trees as if they were toothpicks. People in the nearby towns began to talk about the giant boy who lived in the woods. They said his footprints filled with rain and became ponds for ducks to swim in. Even the tallest pines bent in the wind when Paul walked by. One winter, the snow fell so high that Paul built tunnels to get to the barn. It was during that snowy season that Paul found his best friend Babe, the blue ox. Babe was a baby ox, stuck in a snowdrift and nearly frozen. Paul lifted him out, wrapped him in his coat, and carried him home. When the snow melted, Paul discovered Babe had turned bright blue from the cold. From that day on, Babe followed Paul everywhere. Together, they became inseparable, working side by side in the great forests of the north. Paul and Babe cut trees faster than 100 men. They cleared paths through mountains and rivers, creating the first roads and lakes of America. It was said that Paul dragged his axe through the land, and that's how the Grand Canyon was formed. Babe followed his trail, leaving giant hoofprints that became the Great Lakes. No forest was too thick, no storm too wild for the mighty Paul Bunyan and his blue walks. Paul soon became famous across the land. Every lumberjack wanted to work for him because his camp was the biggest in the world. They said Paul's camp was so large, it took a day to walk from one end to the other. When the cook rang the bell for breakfast, the sound echoed through 10 valleys. Paul's men used giant frying pans big enough to cook a dozen oxen at once. The pancakes were so large that Babe had to pull them across the griddle to flip them over. The workers used syrup rivers instead of bottles to pour over their pancakes. Every day, Paul and his men went into the forests to cut timber. Babe pulled the logs down mountains, across rivers, and through the snow. One winter, the snow was so deep that the men used Babe to pull sleds loaded with entire houses. Paul laughed and said, "Nothing can stop us, Babe, not even winter itself." The people who lived near Paul's camp told stories of his amazing strengths. They said he could chop down a forest faster than lightning could strike. Once, Paul's axe hit the ground so hard it made a crater that filled with rainwater. That crater became known as Lake Superior. When Babe drank from it, the water level dropped by 5 feet. Paul and Babe were heroes of the North Woods. They worked from sunrise to sunset, building logging roads and new towns. As America grew, Paul helped shape its wilderness into places where people could live and thrive. He never asked for money or fame, only that people respect the forests. He told his men, "The trees give us life. Always plant 2 for everyone we cut." And so they did. Paul Bunyan's coat became the first law of lumberjacks. One year, the winter was the coldest anyone had ever known. Snow buried the trees so deep that even Paul's camp disappeared under white hills. But Paul didn't give up. He harnessed Babe to his biggest plow and shouted, "Let's clear this land, old friend." Together, they carved giant valleys through the snowdrifts, freeing entire towns. People cheered as they saw sunlight again for the first time in weeks. They said the white paths Paul plowed became the first trails across the Midwest. When the spring came, Paul and Babe continued westward. They crossed rivers, climbed mountains, and chopped forests until they reached the Great Plains. There, Paul saw endless land and said, "This will be America's new home." Babe snorted happily, his horns glinting in the golden sun. They worked hard to make the land ready for settlers coming from the east. Paul used his axe to clear forests, and Babe pulled rivers straight so boats could pass. It was said that Paul once dug a trench so deep that it became the Mississippi River. The settlers thanked Paul and Babe for making the land livable. Children waved and shouted as the giant and his ox passed by. Everywhere they went, laughter followed. Paul would sometimes stop to tell stories to the people around the campfire. He told them to be brave, to help one another, and to never fear hard work. When the stars came out, Paul looked up and smiled. "This land is beautiful," he said, "and it belongs to everyone willing to care for it." Babe made softly, as if agreeing with every word. That night, they slept under the sky, their campfire glowing like a tiny sun. Years passed, and Paul grew older, though still taller than any tree. Babe's blue coat began to fade, but his spirit stayed strong. One morning, as the mist rose over the valley, Paul looked at his friend and smiled. "Babe," he said softly, "we've done good work." Babe moved once more, his deep voice echoing across the hills. Some say that was the last time anyone ever saw them. Others believe they walked together into the sunset to rest among the mountains they made. To this day, when the wind howls through the pine trees, lumberjacks listen closely. They say it's Paul's voice, still giving courage to those who work the land. And when thunder rolls across the plains, That's Babe running joyfully in the sky. Paul Bunyan became more than a legend. He became a symbol of strength and kindness. He showed that hard work and heart can shape the world. His story reminds us that no dream is too big, and no person too small to make a difference. Even giants, after all, start as small as we do, with hope, courage, and a dream. Moral of the story: true greatness isn't about size or strength. It's about the kindness you give, the courage you show, and the legacy you leave behind. And maybe, somewhere out there, Paul and Babe are still watching over us, smiling. Thank you for listening to Tales by Rabbit, where every legend comes to life and every story holds a spark of magic. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more magical tales. Good night, and may your dreams be as grand as Paul Bunyan's adventures.